Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is launching an investigation into herself.
Or, sort of, Bass sat down with Fox 11 for an exclusive interview. She told the outlet that nobody told her going to Ghana was a bad idea because of potential disastrous wildfires.
Bass said, quote, "That level of preparation really didn't happen, so it didn't reach that level to me to say that something terrible could happen and maybe you shouldn't have gone on the trip." She's referring to herself. The interviewer then asked why this was the case, to which Bass responded that she was launching multiple investigations.
Back in January, journalist Li Fang reported on Substack that there were multiple warnings from agencies like the National Weather Service and the US Forest Service just days before the fires took place.
Even though LA Mayor Karen Bass had left for Ghana before the fire started, Fang argues there were plenty of public warnings and the mayor's office should have known about it and been prepared. He also writes, defenders of the mayor claim that criticisms of her absence is unfair given that there was no way to know when the crisis would strike. That, however, is just not true. Her office was well aware of the risk. She still traveled abroad.
The fires began January the 7th in the Palisades that spread to nearly 24,000 acres and demolished more than 6,800 buildings. California government data shows that 12 people died as a result of the fires.
Conservative political commentator Charlie Kirk wrote on X, LA Mayor Karen Bass says she's really just a victim for being allowed to travel to Ghana when forecasts predicted massive Santa Ana winds that led to catastrophic fires. She says there'll be an investigation as to why she was victimized. Unreal spin. And Fox Business correspondent Charles Gasparino wrote on X, the real question that needs to be answered is why was Karen Bass considered a rising star in the Dem Party, but Josh Shapiro considered too moderate to be VP? We are talking about some real problems here. This was a great interview of Karen Bass. I wish we can play it, but we can't actually play it, which makes me a sad panda, where she's asked, who's responsible for this? She's like, we got to figure out who was responsible for allowing me to go to Ghana. I'm like, well, that's you, lady. That's so clearly you. There's no whose job was to say to you, maybe this is a bad. I guess she's supposed to have better advisors warn you don't go on this trip. The whole thing was just a hilarious example of blame shifting to someone else. We got to get to the bottom of this. I'm sure there's someone responsible for your personal decision to go to Ghana.
So let me adopt perhaps my single most unpopular position, which is a defense of the authorities in the LA wildfires and Karen Bass in particular. Firstly, her point is that she says the warnings of the severity of the fires did not reach her. Li Fang argues otherwise. They can litigate that between themselves if they have the chance. She says the warnings didn't reach her and that the investigations, one of which was actually launched by Gavin Newsom, as I understand it, is partly to find out that, among other things, and why the preparedness wasn't what it should be. The bigger point to me is no one that I have seen has ever pointed out what would have been substantively different about the city's response to the wildfires if Karen Bass had been sitting in Glendale rather than Ghana. The problem with the LA wildfires, and I've said this on this show and elsewhere numerous times, is there was a multiple location wildfire driven by winds of almost 100 miles an hour on the first night. If you have winds of 100 miles an hour, you can't put helicopters in the air to try to quash a fire from the air. You are therefore dependent on fire trucks and hydrants. And there is no system, and this is an expert opinion, it's not my pontificating about it, there is no municipal system anywhere in any major city in the US where you could get sufficient volumes of water out of hydrants to fight wildfires on that scale. And wherever Karen Bass is or was, doesn't change that reality.
That's all fine. She promised not to leave the state of California except to travel to Washington, D.C. That was a campaign promise she made that she violated. I don't think it would have made any difference. I just don't know why. I mean, she clearly thinks she's in trouble over it because she's embarrassed and she's trying to blame someone else for having made this decision. So she thinks the optics of it look not good. Even if nothing was going to be different, you're used to in a crisis having the politician, roll up their sleeves, talking to the rescue workers, talking to the victims. That's kind of politics 101. She wasn't on hand to do it. You're right. Nothing would have been different about the fire itself. It's just, it's a broken promise and it doesn't look good. And she's, taking flack for it as she deserves, and there's no one else to blame but her for doing it.
The optics of it are bad, and I think she's aware of that, and I think everyone's aware of that, and I wouldn't deny that. I think that the optics, anytime there is a major problem and a politician appears either not to be fully engaged or to be in some way not exactly dismissive, I don't think that's right in Bass's case, but we can look through, like Ted Cruz being in Cancun when there was the ice storm.
And he was attacked. He was attacked for that, including by conservatives. He got mocked widely for that.
Right.
Or that just everyone, or even media figures who left New York or cities to go hide out in their personal bungalows during COVID. They got mocked for that. I know Pete Buttigieg got criticized not for visiting East Palestine, I think, or taking a while to visit. This is a bipartisan, people on both sides of the political spectrum get criticized for this kind of thing. So there's nothing new about it.
The optics I've just said were bad. What I object to is people saying, oh, she was in Ghana, as if it would all have been different. It wouldn't have been different at all, regardless of where she had been. I get that it's a useful political weapon to use against her, just as Ted heading off to Cancun in the ice storm was a useful weapon for Liberals against him. But it doesn't actually affect the outcome. And one of the things that irritates me about the whole debate about the LA wildfires is that I think there are just constant hyperbolic or incorrect claims, like Trump's whole thing about water from the north, a point that has nothing to do with the firefighting capabilities of the city of Los Angeles. So when we talk about these things, if you want to say Karen Bass, it was politically embarrassing for her to be in Africa, yeah, it was, but it wouldn't have changed the outcome. No burning building would not have burnt. None of the people who sadly lost their lives would have been saved if she had been in LA instead of Ghana.
Yeah, it's true, but it was true of Ted Cruz when he got so widely mocked for that. Yes, it doesn't matter if the politician is there. I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to argue that the politician is actually just a distraction, and they should all take vacations to Ghana or elsewhere.
Or libertarian positions.
Just get out of our cities, get out of our countries, go take a vacation and never come back. All of you. Next up, Free Press reporter Tanya Lukunova joins us to discuss the relationship between the U.S. and Ukrainian media, USAID. Stay tuned.